which is a recent talk in relation to. This is the new one, so I have to delete this one. So okay. So I will be talking about this. So to start with, we all know that we have been treating acute coronary syndrome for a long time. We have been treating chronic stable angina. We have been treating chronic. All these things we have been treating coronary artery disease for a long time. It is just to revise and give you a little more interest in the statins, which have been there for a long time, ever since simvastatin came up in about 20 years back. So I will talk about indications of high intensity statin. I will talk about the ACS epidemiology. I will talk about the conventional approach. Could high intensity statin be a solution to achieve target LDL levels? And whether the high intensity statin versus a fixed target LDL level, is there any difference or not? What are the recent cholesterol updates? What are the evidences and beyond, and the evidences in revascularization in chronic and the plaque reduction? So patients with history of acute coronary syndrome and high LDL-C represent a high risk population in cardiovascular disease, a major global unmet need. So as you can see, this is an article published in World. This is data from the World Heart Foundation, and cardiovascular disease kills more than worldwide than any other disease. Number one killer is CVD, not cancer. Earlier it was carcinoma, which was the number one killer. Now it is the CVD, which is the number one killer. Patients with acute coronary syndrome, ACS, such as heart attack, are at high risk despite statin therapy. Heart attack is a common ACS event associated with an increased mortality rate. If we see globally, cause of death, worldwide deaths 17.7 million in 2015. 80% of all CVD deaths are due to heart attack and strokes. So all cardiovascular and coronary, this neurological death, 80% is because of this. What is the economical setback? 1044 billion total global cost of CVD expected in 2030. So this is huge expense. And what are the benefits of cholesterol lowering? Meta-analysis of 38 primary and secondary prevention trials with more than 98,000 patients in total have shown that the total mortality is significantly reduced. As you, this is, I think slide is not very well seen. As you reduce the when you do the lowering of cholesterol, the mortality is directly benefited. The reduction in mortality with reducing the cholesterol levels. This is a meta-analysis. Many patients that are treated are still not getting the goal. This is a 2989 patients. This is small disadvantage because I think if we cannot go on to the slideshow, otherwise slideshow will show these things after coming back. Okay, it doesn't matter. We have to continue this topic. So once 575, 53% are at goal, and 65% do not achieve goal, only 35% at goal. This is the data published in Circulation 2001. That means there is still unmet need despite so much talk about the statins. Estimated 5 to 8 million patients present annually for the chest pain. 20 to 25% diagnosed with acute coronary syndrome. These are low risk population, then there is a high risk population. So if you see, of all the coronary artery disease, unstable angina is 40%, 40% is non-STEMI, non-ST elevation myocardial infarction, while only 20% is STEMI. Coming on to the next slide, what are the major recent cardiovascular epidemiological studies in India? It's not a very good slide, and there is no major. There have been so many trials and which have shown the advantage of statins, and we all know. So in the paucity of time, I'm not going to read it, but we know that there are major risk cardiovascular disease epidemiological studies in India which have shown significant reduction in mortality with the usage of statins. So what is the pathophysiology of a stable angina and ACS? Pathophysiology: decreased oxygen supply, flow limiting stenosis, anemia, plaque rupture, clot, increased oxygen demand, and which leads to supply demand mismatch. We all know, just to revise, ischemia lead to myocardial ischemia, necrosis, and this, if it is myocardial infarction, this can present as myocardial infarction or unstable angina. Or when there is a fixed demand supply, there is no plaque rupture, then it presents as stable coronary artery disease, and which is a chronic stable angina. So So conventional approach is the reperfusion goals is symptom onset to reperfusion less than 120 minutes and patient presenting to then less than 30 minutes and both door to balloon time should be less than 90 minutes. When the patient comes to emergency, we have to do the ECG, then evaluation, emergency department evaluation and reperfusion therapy depending upon the availability of treatment. A lot of patients do have the possibility of getting treatment by primary angioplasty, while if the patient reaches to the hospital where there is no availability or the patient is reasonably sick or the discretion of the operating physician or cardiologist, that patient will go for the thrombolysis therapy with STK or TPA. So this is there. We have been doing this just to revise this. The conventional approach is monitor and immediately treat arrhythmia in the first 48 hours. Pay attention to exacerbating factors such as disturbance in electrolytes. Patient with known hypersensitivity to antiplatelet, active internal bleeding and bleeding disorders should not receive antiplatelet or antithrombotic. They are very less number. Humidified oxygen may reduce the risk of nosebleeds in patients with acute coronary syndrome who are receiving antiplatelet antithrombin therapy. Do not administer nitrates if the patient is hypotensive, RV infarction, large pericardial effusion, or severe aortic stenosis suspected, or if the patient recently received phosphodiesterase inhibitors. Some patients with intractable chest pain or severe hypotension may require the insertion of intra-aortic balloon pump. This is a really life-saving procedure which is done in most of the major hospitals if the patient is having severe chest pain, angina, intractable hypotension, and any patient actually acute MI should receive intra-aortic balloon pump and followed by angiography and angioplasty. Euro Heart Survey showed a nearly 40% reduction in the risk of death in patients with ACS who receive support with intra-aortic balloon pump. So this is the conventional approach and the important part. The benefit was independent of the status of ST segment. The clinical significance of incomplete coronary revascularization following PCI patient with ACS was examined in 3,000 patients from the acute catheterization and urgent intervention trial study acute trial. At 1 year follow-up, the strongly associated with ischemia-driven unplanned revascularization, myocardial infarction, and major cardiac events. So these are important slides, but I am trying to skip it because we have to come back to the statins. What about the lipid-lowering drugs? So there are two types of lipid lowering, whether you can do high, moderate and low intensive therapy, or is a high intensity, a moderate intensity and low intensity. So lipid lowering, LDL-C reduction, when you are doing high intensity, what do we mean? We mean that atorvastatin at least 40 milligram to 80 milligram or rosuvastatin 22. This is the definition of high intensity statins. The interest has come up because of the recent article which was published, and I cannot show you, but I can read out after this slide. I will read out an article which was published in Journal of American Heart Association. But before that, I would like to tell you what is moderate intensity, what is high intensity. I again repeat, atorvastatin 40 milligram or 80 milligram or rosuvastatin 20 to 40. So there are two approaches. One approach is when you do a moderate intensity and if you achieve the LDL-C, stop at the moderate intensity. That means atorvastatin 10 or rosuvastatin 5 or 10 or simvastatin 20 to 40. So this is moderate intensity, and low intensity is 10 milligram. So why the controversy has arisen? What do we want to know actually? The difference between the high intensity approach and moderate intensity approach. The moderate intensity and low intensity approach means if you have achieved the LDL-C target of 70 milligram LDL, so at that point of time you can go on to the continuation of atorvastatin 10 or 20 depending upon requirement, while the other approach, high intensity, means despite irrespective of LDL-C goal, continue with atorvastatin and rosuvastatin 20 or 40 or atorvastatin 40 to 80 irrespective of LDL-C goals, and it has been seen by a trial that there is a definite advantage of continuing high intensity statins irrespective of LDL-C goal. So let me go to an article which has been published and which would like to show you and read out actually. Just give me 1 minute. So this was an article, I don't know whether you are able to see it, but the Journal of American Heart Association. I want to give you this summary of this article published in October 2018. High intensity versus non-high intensity statins in patients achieving LDL goal after percutaneous coronary intervention. The background, whether use of high intensity statin is more important than achieving low density lipoprotein cholesterol target remains controversial. I repeat, whether use of high intensity statin is more important than achieving LDL target remain controversial in patients with coronary artery disease. We sought to investigate the association between the statin intensity and long-term clinical outcome in patients achieving target LDL-C after PCI. So they have concluded among patients achieving treatment target for LDL-C after PCI, high intensity statins were associated with low risk of major adverse cardiovascular events than now non-high intensity statins, despite a small difference in achieving LDL-C goal. I will again repeat the conclusion part. This was the abstract conclusion, but I will go to the whole article. It's very important to read it, especially the discussion. In the present study, high-intensity therapy was more effective in preventing MACE than non-high-intensity statin therapy in patients achieving target LDL-C after PCI. There are several plausible explanations for our result. First, level of follow-up time average LDL-C was lower in high-intensity statin group than in non-high-intensity group. Second, greater percentage LDL-C reduction in high-intensity group compared with the non-high-intensity group might have partially explained differences in the risk of MACE. Third, however, observed benefit in the high-intensity statin group was greater than expected benefit from the difference in time average LDL-C between the two groups when compared with previous data from meta-analysis. This finding suggests that observed benefit in the high-intensity group could not be explained by only lipid-lowering effect of statins and might be at least partially attributable to non-lipid mechanism or pleiotropic effect of statins. That means when you give high intensity statins, the pleiotropic effect of statins may be responsible for further reduction irrespective of LDL-C goal. Statins have been reported to have diverse protective effects on the cardiovascular system, improvement of endothelial function, modulation of inflammatory response and thrombogenesis, and stabilization of plaque. This is very important. So finally, I repeat the conclusion of this study published in Journal of American Heart Association in October 2018. In patients who the achieved LDL-C target recommended by ASCS guideline for secondary prevention after PCI, patient treated with high intensity statin had a significantly lower incidence of MACE than those treated with MACE means major adverse cardiovascular event than those treated with non-high intensity statin. Our data suggests that high intensity statin should be considered even in the patient achieving LDL-C target with non-high intensity statin. So coming back to the slides again. So as this data has shown, which is very important, that irrespective of LDL-C goals, even if you have achieved LDL-C goal of 70 mg/%, if you continue high intensity statins, especially those patients who have undergone angioplasty, that means atorvastatin 40 or 80 mg. If your lipid profile, if your liver function tests are okay, if you're not getting the enzymes elevation, SGOT and SGPT, then please continue atorvastatin according to this high intensity, irrespective of LDL-C goals, because the major adverse cardiovascular events are further reduced by high intensity. That means atorvastatin 40 or rosuvastatin 20 don't reduce from 10 to 10 mg or rosuvastatin 5 mg. This is the crux of the study. Going on to the next slide. So the MIRACLE trial allowed randomization between 1 to 3 days after this. Effect of atorvastatin on early recurrent ischemic in acute coronary syndrome, the MIRACLE study. The MIRACLE study highlighted in the ATP3 guidelines demonstrated that statin treatment initiated in the hospital in patients with non-pure unstable angina was safe and effective with 16%. These are few studies which have shown the safety and reduction of MACE in the group which is receiving the statins. Statin utilization patterns and outcomes of patients with acute coronary syndrome, drug duration and following admissions. So this is already discussed, and this is just to give you a background again. Statin utilization patterns and outcome of patient with ACS during a patient hospital admission. So this is high intensity, this is low intensity and moderate intensity statins. So this is the pattern which have been shown at the time of discharge. ACS initial treatment. This is initial treatment. We have to again see acute chest pain. This is troponin positive, pain more than 6 hours, pain less than 6 hours. The pain-free differential diagnosis, discharge, stress testing. This was the old approach. The newer approach is that you have to do revascularization, invasive management with the help of angiography, immediate urgent angiography and angioplasty. Reviewing guidelines for level of evidence and class metrics. I am going to skip this slide also. What are the 2018 cholesterol guidelines for primary prevention? Assess the risk in early age group. Emphasize adherence to healthy lifestyle. What are age 0 to 19 lifestyle? This is those patients who have got a primary prevention. That means they have a high cholesterols. If the patient is 0 to 20 years, only lifestyle reduction. 20 to 40 years, estimate lifetime risk. I think I cannot increase the size. So it is a very small size. Estimate lifetime risk. To overcome lifestyle to reduce coronary artery disease risk, consider statin if family history of or premature acute coronary artery disease is there and LDL-C is more than 160. Those patients who are more than age 40 to 75 without diabetes mellitus, you have to see again 5% low risk, borderline risk, intermediate risk, high risk. The patients who are already having LDL of more than 190, there is no need for the risk assessment. Continue, start with high statin. Those with a diabetes mellitus and age 40 to 75, class 2. So this is a flow diagram of cholesterol management. I think this is enough for this today regarding this flow diagram. So again, what are those patients who are very high risk for future is acute coronary disease events. Those patients who are very high risk, these are the patients who have got recent ACS within past 12 months, history of acute myocardial infarction, history of ischemic stroke and symptomatic peripheral artery disease. These are the patients who are actually very high risk for a future coronary or stroke events. So coronary revascularization, again to revise, STEMI diagnosis, primary PCI, rescue PCI, coronary angiography or thrombolysis. Just to repeat, this is European Heart Journal 2012. The medical management of patient on stable angina, I have told you, give aspirin. In between the slides are a little mixed up. Sorry that I have not been able to control the slide pattern. So this is again to give you what is the management style. But I have already summarized the high risk statins, medical management of STEMI, secure PCI trial, statins evaluation, coronary procedure revascularization. Its overall result has valuable implication in clinical practice. After available evidences, there is no question about that. Intensive lipid lowering treatment should be started before discharge or within 10 days of after ACS events. Initiation of high intensity statin within 2 days after PCI is as effective as initiation within 12 hours before PCI. This is a little controversial study published recently. That means they say that initiation of high intensity statin within 2 days after PCI is as effective as its initiation within 12 hours before PCI in patient planning PCI. So I think there is no point in waiting for 2 days. You can start within 12 hours. Statin STEMI, efficacy of high dose atorvastatin loading before primary percutaneous coronary intervention, ST elevation myocardial infarction. The study compared an effect of 80 mg atorvastatin versus 10 mg atorvastatin before PCI. This is an important study which was published in Thoracic Disease 2018. A meaningful improvement in immediate coronary flow was noted with high intensity statin before start the procedure. This is very important for the interventional cardiologist to understand that if you start 80 mg atorvastatin just before PCI, then there was a meaningful improvement in immediate coronary flow as in high intensity statin group. What about high intensity surgical management? Where does it stand? So revascularization after acute coronary syndrome, PCI or bypass surgery. Technical advances in PCI in the setting of ACS have relegated CABG largely to secondary position in most cases. That means acute coronary syndrome, PCI is the first choice of treatment, not bypass surgery. Conventional surgical revascularization achieves a combined prospect of an excellent long-term outcomes and an average risk of less than 3%, which can further be reduced using open bypass surgery, particularly high-risk patients. So the surgeon says that they can reduce the risk to less than 3%. But of course, if PCI is possible, PCI, percutaneous coronary intervention, is always better. Surgical versus PCI in multi-vessel study with coronary artery syndrome. So after giving this match, I'll come to what about the statins. To reduce the further risk of MI in PCI and CABG, consistent risk reduction of 28% in death from any cause over 2 years was seen with the use of statins. These are the evidences. PROVE-IT trial, not going into details. And this is a slide which shows that high intensity statin therapy is associated with improved survival in patients with peripheral artery disease as well, published in Journal of American Heart Association. Coming on to the changes in coronary plaque composition in patients with acute MI treated with high intensity statin therapy. a serial optic coherence tomographic study published in August 2019, very recent trial, important trial. So this trial had 103 patients underwent IVUS and OCT of two non-infarct related coronary arteries in the acute phase of STEMI. Patients were treated with high dose rosuvastatin for 13 months. High dose, that means 40 milligram. Serial OCT imaging was available in 153 arteries from 83 patients. Published recently in JACC Cardiovascular Imaging, Journal of American College of Cardiology in 2019. So what are the results? Significant increase in minimum fibrous cap thickness, reduction in macrophage accumulation, frequent regression in thin cap fibroerythemata to other plaque phenotypes in non-culprit lesion of patients with STEMI treated with high intensity statin therapy. So this is the image is showing. So increase in fibrous cap thickness reduces the further possibility of acute coronary syndrome. And this is how the increase in minimal fibrous cap thickness was more pronounced in lesions with TCFA than those in TCFA morphology at baseline. To summarize, the deserving patient profile segmentation for statin. Multivascular disease patients occurrence data 30% intervention. So if you are using high intensity therapy, so it has got advantage in all patients of acute coronary syndrome as well as patients post PCI, post bypass surgery, and in peripheral vascular disease as well. So I come back and repeat my topic again to conclude, because this is important article published in 2018. I want to go into the background again before I finish this topic. High intensity versus non-high intensity statins in patients achieving low density lipoprotein cholesterol goal after percutaneous coronary intervention. I don't think you are able to see this because this is an article, it is not in the slide form. But still I would like to repeat for the interest of the audience, whether use of the background of this study published in October 2018, whether use of high intensity statin is more important than achieving low density cholesterol target remains controversial in patients with coronary artery disease. We sought to investigate the association between statin intensity and long-term clinical outcomes in patients achieving target LDL-C after PCI, and they have concluded among patients achieving treatment target for LDL-C after PCI, high intensity statins were associated with lower risk of major adverse cardiovascular events than non-high intensity statins. Despite, so what is new? What are the clinical perspective? In patients undergoing PCI who achieved the LDL level less than 70 mg/%, high intensity therapy was significantly associated with low risk of primary outcome compared with non-high intensity therapy, despite achieving the LDL goal of 70. What are the clinical implications? In patients undergoing PCI, high intensity therapy is associated with additional lowering of risk of major adverse cardiovascular event beyond what may be achieved by LDL target alone. So LDL target alone may be good. You may be having only atorvastatin 10 mg, still your LDL level is 68 mg%. But according to this study, if you do continuously high intensity statin, that means 40 mg of atorvastatin or 20 mg of rosuvastatin, and then there will be further reduction in major adverse cardiovascular event. I want to repeat one more paragraph just to read out. High intensity therapy have demonstrated consistent benefits for secondary prevention of adverse cardiovascular events compared with moderately intensity statins in randomized trials. Therefore, 2013 American College of Cardiology and American Heart Association guideline on treatment of blood cholesterol recommends high intensity statin including atorvastatin 40 to 80 or rosuvastatin 20 or 40 for patients with atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. However, without whether beneficial effects of high intensity statin can be attributable to statin intensity per se or merely lowering the LDL level achieved by high intensity statins compared with moderate therapy is uncertain. That means we are not sure whether it is actually the reduction of LDL level which is important or there is something else. It has been reported that lowering of LDL-C with statin therapy reduces cardiovascular events regardless of type of intensity of statins. Therefore, European Society, we were talking about American guidelines, European Society of Cardiology guidelines for management of dyslipidemia still proposes the target goal of LDL-C 70 mg% or a reduction of at least 50% from baseline for subjects at a very high risk without specific recommendation of type of statins. the difference between those two guidelines, the European Society says just achieve the target LDL of 70 or reduction of 50% from baseline, that is enough. This is what European Society guidelines says. But American guidelines says that you have to give high intensity statins. The difference between these two guidelines have caused many debates and much confusion in daily practice. To date, it remains controversial whether outcomes differ according to statin therapy in patients with similar LDL-C levels. Therefore, this study was made to investigate the association between statin intensity and long-term clinical outcomes in patients undergoing PCI without and achieving the target goal of LDL-C. I hope so. I was clear that European Society guidelines says just achieve the target LDL and continue whatever of atorvastatin 5 mg of 10 mg. American Association has already said in 2013 that intensive therapy is better, and there have been so many trials which have shown that intensive therapy is better, and therefore this trial which was planned in 2018, it's published, and this has clearly shown that high intense therapy is better if you, especially post PCI, and they had enrolled 1,756 patients from February 20 through to December 2018. So this was a huge number of patients which were enrolled in this study. So I finalized my statement by saying that high intensity therapy with the statins is better. If the moderators allow me, I would like to go directly to the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because COVID is a huge problem today, and a lot of patients. I already discussed with the marketing team of Lupin and Mr. Negi that I would like to speak about 5-10 minutes also on the today's problem of COVID-19. So if the moderator allows me another 10 minutes, then we can take up question answers later on after telling about SARS COVID-2 virus, COVID-19, which is a huge problem, and we are in the lockdown. That is why the webinars are being held. So I have to talk a little about this also. I continue with the interest of the audience and doctor. I know everybody is now fed up with COVID also, but I think I would be able to contribute a little more. So till yesterday, the data, global perspective, that 26 lakhs cases were there worldwide. Today must be 28 or 27 lakhs. I have not checked in today's WHO data. More than 18 lakhs death worldwide. India perspective is till yesterday 21,000 infected and 681 deaths. So it's a huge problem. Coronavirus 2, COVID-19, novel coronavirus disease is a huge problem. And this is yesterday I presented a webinar for the MIT University. So these are few slides that I will show you. I'll not go into details. We all know that this virus is affecting the respiratory tract mainly, but there are also gastrointestinal and neurological implications which is coming up. This is a new disease we are learning. Once the SARS-CoV entry 2 in replication, there is antigen presentation, then there is cellular immunity and the humoral immunity. And here, when you target here, it is the vaccine. When you target here, it is actually the plasma therapy. So coronavirus disease entry and replication. Coronavirus S protein has been reported as significant determinant of virus entry into host cells. The envelope spike glycoprotein binds to its cellular receptor ACE inhibitor for SARS-CoV-1 and COVID-2. The entry of SARS-CoV into cells was initially identified to be accomplished. The study has been done in 2009. As you know, that COVID-1, in fact, it's not COVID-1, coronavirus 1 came in 2008 at MERS and SARS, respectively. And therefore, the study was already there for the virus. And COVID-2 is a little different. So we are not going to details of the virus presentation, but I want to tell you the antigen presentation subsequently stimulates the body humoral and cellular immunity, which are mediated by virus-specific B and T cells. We have been having a lot of interest. This is our revision of pathophysiology and pathology and microbiology, which we have read during our MBBS days. Similar to common acute viral infection, the antibody profile against SARS-CoV virus has a typical pattern of IgM and IgG production. The SARS-specific IgM antibodies disappear at the end of week 12, while the IgG antibody can last for a longer time, which indicate IgG antibody may mainly play a protective role, and the SARS-specific IgG antibodies primarily the S-specific and N-specific antibodies. Comparing to humoral response, there are more researches on cellular immunity of coronavirus. The latest reports show the number of CD4 and CD8 T cells in the peripheral blood of SARS-CoV-2 infected patients is significantly reduced, and that is leading to cytokine storm. So this leads to ARDS like picture in patients who are seriously ill. The acute phase response in patients with SARS-CoV is associated with severe decrease in CD4T and CD4 T cells, even if there is no antigen CD4 and CD. So I'm not going to bore you with this. Let us go to the clinical implication. Cytokine storm in COVID-19. The report in Lancet shows that ARDS is the main cause of death of COVID-19. I may tell you that SARS-CoV-2 virus, 80% patients completely recover. 20% patient will have a moderate to severe illness. 10% if they are more than age 80 or they are having associated cardiovascular disease, they have a mortality of 5 to 10%. But this 5 to 10% mortality is also major mortality, especially in acute phase. That's why the whole world is thinking to bring vaccine, plasma therapy, hydroxychloroquine. So I'll touch upon few things. The diagnosis is depending upon clinical manifestation. Clinical manifestation of cough, fever, symptoms of cough, fever, dyspnea and pneumonia. These are clinical symptoms. Then diagnosis made by nucleic acid detection, which is the test, which is PCR test. So two commonly used nucleic acid detecting technology for SARS-CoV-2 are real-time quantitative PCR test. And this can be done either through the blood, which is very, very expensive, or from the respiratory secretions, which we are doing it. So PCR test is a test which is actually a gold standard test, which confirms with 100 or 99% sensitivity or 95% sensitivity. 5% can still be missed out, which is done from the respiratory secretions, from the throat swab. It takes about 24 to 48 hours for the results to come. But there is a catch. The catch is that there is a possibility of a false negative rate of PCR. But this cannot be ignored because of the severe consequences of misdiagnosis. If you miss a diagnosis of COVID-19, you may have severe consequences. Patient can go into ARDS, pneumonia, ventilator treatment or death. Therefore, CT scan can be considered as a necessary auxiliary diagnostic. So for the individuals where you have a high clinical suspicion, very important point, a lot of people don't know about it. When you have a high clinical suspicion of SARS-CoV-2 infection with negative PCR test, a combination of repeat PCR and chest CT scan may be helpful. This is very, very important. Many people don't know. There are patients who have a very clear-cut clinical suspicion of COVID-2 and you miss the diagnosis because PCR test is negative. Here you have to have an auxiliary diagnostic method, which is a CT scan. And what CT scan shows is a typical CT images show bilateral pulmonary parenchymal ground glass and consolidated pulmonary opacities, sometimes with a rounded morphology and peripheral lung distribution. This is how the CT scan picture. So if a patient is having COVID-2 PCR test negative and you have a clear-cut clinical symptoms and you have this ground glass appearance, then you should repeat PCR test, emergency hospitalization, treat like COVID-2 and then. So let me tell you how the medicines work. I will take another 5-10 minutes to complete. This is very important because as a cardiologist and physician, we should all know there are a lot of patients' queries coming every day. You get calls from your social friends, you get calls from your medical friends, you get calls what to do, what not to do. The whole world is in the lockdown. The Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi ji was much wiser enough than the European counterpart to put lockdown faster. March 24. Since that we are all facing lockdown, that's why all webinars. So I'm very thankful to the Ministry of Health and the Government of India and Honorable Prime Minister. So let us concentrate what it is, how the medicines work. This is the SARS-CoV virus entry into the cells. That is the uncoating, then RNA formation, polypeptide, non-structural proteins, RNA dependent RNA. So here the chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine works at the level of membrane fusion because at this point of time there is some antiviral activity here. Then the antivirus medicines like Ribavirin and Remdesivir, and this is working at the level of polypeptide and non-structural proteins, RNA dependent. So this is where this works, while the other medicines, tocilizumab, they work at the level of endoplasmic reticulum. So this is something like. A word about hydroxychloroquine. There has been so much of debate about the utility and toxicity, both of hydroxychloroquine in COVID-19. I will give very important 3 points to tell you. Indian Council of Medical Research, which is a main body for the research and for the guidelines, about 2 weeks back, they gave a clear-cut guideline that hydroxychloroquine should be used for healthcare workers only as a prophylactic medicine. And of course, we know that from the European and Chinese data that this is also effective in treatment. But there are some controversy created the day before yesterday from the American data. I will tell you. Before that, I'll tell you French data. But let me tell you and repeat and remind every healthcare worker. Healthcare worker means doctors, nurses, ward boys, housekeeping boys, delivery boys, the pharmacy boys inside the hospital. They are all healthcare workers. I have checked from my own hospital, Apollo, that many people have still not taken hydroxychloroquine for the fear of cardiotoxicity, which has been created by phobia, panic, many trials, many people talking, and of course the media. So I would like to tell you that hydroxychloroquine is absolutely safe, and I'll show you the trials also. But we have to be careful in doing ECG before that. If you do ECG, your QT interval is normal. QTC, corrected QT interval on ECG is normal. Don't avoid taking hydroxychloroquine as a preventive dose, which is very less dose, 400 milligram hydroxychloroquine only for 1 day, and then repeat 400 milligram once a week for 7 weeks. It's a very limited dose. So there is no fear or panic. So let me tell you that there were 2 trials I would like to show you that they have. This is a very important trial, the French perspective. Professor Didier Raoult is something different, and I'm trying to talk different other than statins and cardiology and angioplasty, which we have been talking here. Let me give you some data published on April 9 recently, only 10 days back. This Professor Didier Raoult was very critical when Mr. Donald Trump, who is the president of USA, was looking for hydroxychloroquine in the first week of April. Then the same Professor Didier, actually the French call it Didier. I have been working in France, so I have a French accent. They call it Didier. I worked with Professor Alain Rivière for 2 years in France, in Rouen. So I know the Marseille. The Marseille is the city, which is a small city in France. A lot of people, they don't know the city. They know only Paris. So France is Paris with its desert all around. This is the saying in France. So Professor Didier was highly critical, and he released a video that don't use hydroxychloroquine because it may be dangerous. It can cause fatal arrhythmias, it can cause torsitis pointes, it can cause ventricular tachycardia, fibrillation and death in patients who are having increased QT interval, and you don't know whether anybody has QT interval. But the study, which was at that time, he was conducting the study. The new study of which the abstract was released today means April 9, was performed at Marseille Hospital, which is a virology hospital, a cohort of 1,000 patients, treated for at least 3 days with hydroxychloroquine azithromycin combination, and their follow-up of at least 9 days was investigated. And the result was there was no major cardiac toxicity. A good clinical outcome, a biological cure was obtained in 973 patients within 10 days of hydroxychloroquine. We are talking here of not prophylaxis, we are talking of the treatment for COVID, hydroxychloroquine. This is a new virus. We don't have major antiviral drugs. We don't have major, as of now, there is no vaccine. Plasma therapy was being introduced and now introduced lately, but plasma therapy is reserved only for a very sick patient, not for initial diagnosis. But hydroxychloroquine can be started from the beginning if you diagnose COVID-19. So good clinical outcome on virological cure was obtained in 1973 patients, that means 90%. A poor outcome in only 4%. 10 were transferred to ICU, 5 patients died, and 31 required 10 days hospitalization or more. So this was a very positive study, and they concluded SCQ azithromycin combination, when started immediately after diagnosis, is a safe and efficient treatment of COVID-19 with a mortality rate of 0.5% in elderly patient. I told you the mortality otherwise is about 15%. According to this study, the mortality is reduced to 0.5% in elderly patients. It avoids worsening on clear virus persistence and contiguously in most of the cases. This was a study which was there. But before that, there was some study from the Wuhan. You know the COVID-19 came from Wuhan, China. Everybody knows it. Nobody can forget Wuhan now for the whole of their life. This is the worst pandemic after Spanish flu. Let me tell you, lot of people are knowing about it. Let me remind you. There have been several pandemics all through this century. The first was Spanish flu, then there so many other flus came, swine flu, then there was HIV, AIDS, and now recently you have then MERS and SARS, and now the COVID-19. All have been pandemic. Pandemic means World Health Organization has said that this is a very rapidly increasing disease, and worldwide most of the countries are affected. Then it becomes pandemic. So when the Wuhan, nobody can forget. Nobody knew from Wuhan before actually Actually, I did not know Wuhan because I was not doing a Chinese. I've been to Beijing and Shanghai, everybody knows. So Wuhan, they said they previously studied, and they said that the SCQ treatment was associated with significant reduction in cough and remission time. But there was some controversial studies also. So the conclusion of this study at that time in the Wuhan, which was about 3 months back, that despite small number of cases, the potential of SCQ in treatment of COVID-19 has been partially confirmed. Considering that there is no better option at present, it is promising practice to apply SCQ to COVID-19 under reasonable management. However, large-scale clinical trial is required, and large-scale clinical trial of 1,000 patients has been concluded with Marseille trial, Professor Didier from France. So this is the study of hydroxychloroquine. 3 days, day before yesterday, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, there is a small jolt coming from the American study, and this is a small study. They said hydroxychloroquine has increased mortality. I would not like to go with that study. When you have done nothing, you should be careful as a cardiologist. You keep on monitoring the ECG. If the QTC interval is not prolonging, you can continue even in COVID patient. Finally, regarding hydroxychloroquine, I repeat and I tell through this of my address, all healthcare workers should take it under control guidance of their cardiologists and physicians. If they are not heart patients, do the ECG. ECG always. See the QT interval is less than 420. Take hydroxychloroquine. If you have not taken today, take it. It's still, as you can see, the lockdown is going to increase. This is my perception, and that this virus is dangerous. So don't take chances. Take hydroxychloroquine and vitamin C. A few points about ivermectin. Ivermectin has been talked about, but we don't have in vivo trials. But ivermectin is a very, very promising drug which is FDA approved for the anti-parasite activity. My father, day before yesterday, wrote a letter to Prime Minister office. There is another anti-parasite medicine which can be tested for antiviral activity, because you see there's a new disease, you have to have a new medicines or the older medicine which has not been tested. So ivermectin is an anti-parasite, FDA approved, broad spectrum anti-parasite agent, and it has been shown in vitro. It's very interesting that by 48 hours the effect of an increased to a 500-fold reduction of viral RNA in ivermectin treated patients. But this is the hypothesis, is the effect is likely through inhibiting the IMP-B13 mediated nuclear import of virus. But this is an in vitro study. This is an in vitro study. In vitro means it has been done in the lab. Trial needs to be conducted in humans. The result from this in vitro study should not guide the clinical practice, but we have to have, can be very useful antiviral, because COVID-2 is not going to finish off. It is not that once like swine flu, it comes every year. My perception and many other specialist perception is that COVID-2, we have to have vaccine, we have to have some very effective agent, so that if the patient gets infected, if you cannot give vaccine, or if the vaccine will take 12 to 18 months. Yesterday, UK people have said, I'm a British, they said they will introduce a vaccine. The human trial started maybe within 6 months. But still, till that time, we need to have some other antiviral activity agent which can really be very important. What about infants born to infected COVID mothers? This is a question which was asked yesterday. So I made this slide that there was a small study which has shown that the children born to the COVID infected mother is actually, they get the antibody, but they don't get the antigen. That means they are not infected. It's a very important point for people to understand, published online March 26, 2020, that the children or infant or born to the infected COVID-19 mothers are having only antibodies, not antigen, and therefore not infected. How to use mask? This is very important. Everybody's talking on the mask. Let me remind you one important thing. March 26, March 17, and March 29. I was on different panels of COVID-19 on television. At that time, especially if you remember the Anand Vihar event, where a lot of workers, they went to the Anand Vihar bus terminal in Delhi, and so it was a joke for the social distancing, and people thought what to do. At that time, that was 29th of March, I suggested that everybody should be made mandatory to use mask outside on the road when they are going for the essentials. Although there was a curfew like there, but still I would suggest at that time either mask or rumaling. I use the word rumaling. It's available on the YouTube, or hanky, or angocha. At that time, I used the word angocha, and the other panelists were making joke of me that is not possible. And in April 1st week, the guidelines were made by PMO, and Honorable Prime Minister himself used a gamcha. face covered, that everybody, because the virus can be airborne. We all know that WHO at that time in March 17, I spoke on TV that there's the possibility that the virus may be airborne. Nobody believed me and they said, no, it's not possible. Don't create panic. Everybody was saying that please don't create panic. It is not important for anybody to wear mask or even hanky on the road. That was the perception of other panelists. At that time I suggested, I'm very happy that even our Honorable Prime Minister has suggested that everybody, now it's a guideline, it's a mandatory in new state, and it's a punishable offence if you're not wearing mask or hanky or gamcha or angocha if you are coming out of your house for essentials. So this is a small story about the mask. For the healthcare workers, I still feel that especially those who are going to COVID ward, they should wear the N95 mask rather than just alone a 3-ply mask. So N95 for all healthcare workers, even if they are not going to the COVID ward. So I use, maybe somebody will say a 3-ply mask is good enough. So Italian doctor perspective, last time we had a webinar with Italian doctors on April 17, and we are going to have a webinar with American doctors on Tuesday regarding COVID. Greg Stone will be talking about, and I'll try to get involved in your company so that they can invite the doctors, because Greg Stone is a big cardiologist from USA, a director of TCT. So what about contact tracing? I would like to tell you about this app. If you have not downloaded this app today, you should try to download this app. It's available on the website. This is a Arogya Setu app, which will, you see the social distancing or physical distancing or the mask or hanky, they do not tell you whether you have been infected or exposed. This is an app which has a very small method, a very important app that will tell you that you have been, whether you have come within last 1 week contact with the person who was COVID-19 positive. The rest you can read on the website. That this app will tell or will warn you that you have been in contact with somebody who has been COVID-19 infected or he was exposed, so that you can allow or request them that please safely quarantine yourself at home and don't come out, because you have to watch yourself for next 21 days. So this is the Arogya Setu app from the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. There have been a lot of studies coming up from the European studies, which are recovery trial for antivirus medicines coming, and they are going on to study this thing. Plasma therapy, antibody therapy, you're reading in the newspaper. We all know that antibodies are developed inside the body once you get infected. So those patients of COVID-19 who have been treated, who have been improved, who have been discharged, their antibodies are taken out with the help of plasma, and they can be used as a treatment protocol for the very sick patients, not for regular patients. It will not be used for the normal or moderate or mildly infective COVID-19 patients. It will be used only for those who have a pneumonia or who are on ventilator, who are requiring non-invasive ventilation. Then the plasma therapy is very useful, and UK Britishers have shown a lot of studies, and America also, and recent day before yesterday it started in Delhi also. This will reduce the mortality significantly. As I told you that hydroxychloroquine, they have shown reduction 90% mortality in Marseille study in France. Similarly, this antibody study is going to help and reduction in mortality. This is a very promising thing. Ventilator, we all know that India is now full of ventilation. I heard yesterday, I was talking in the news that now America was looking for ventilator therapy. In fact, they were short of. Italy, why the people died? Because they were not able to choose which patient should be given ventilator because the ventilator numbers had fallen short. India, our Honorable Prime Minister and the Ministry of Healthcare and all the Chief Ministers, they have ample numbers of ventilators. They have already acquired. Our ICU beds are very much, we don't have that many sick patients, and therefore we are better placed at this point of time to face any severe consequences of SARS-2. Our lockdown is working. I told you about healthcare workers. We have to be careful. Many doctors all over the world have died. Many doctors, many cardiologists. I was talking to my Italian doctor friend who was talking about, let me finish in 5 minutes because the time is up, who were talking about that the whole hospital, the cardiologist, 32-year-old cardiologist now is a COVID healthcare worker. That means treating the COVID patients. That was a tragedy about 2 weeks back. That means most of the ICUs, coronary ICUs have been converted to COVID ICUs. That was a surge in such a way, and they lost so many lives, literally, you know. So COVID and heart, we have to be careful. I will not go into details about this COVID and heart because I'm a cardiologist. Let me tell you that there is a severe myocarditis, and there has been shown to be a severe disease onset. That means it is a prothrombotic COVID-19 virus is also causing prothrombotic. That is why there is a now indication that all the patients of COVID-19 should be on oral or injection Clexane if they are very sick. Hypertension per se is not a really serious problem. Diabetes is per se. I would like to show you our last slide. This is a very important slide. I would like to show you the case fatality rate in laboratory confirmed COVID-19 patients. If you are having a heart disease already, 10.5%. This is JAMA published online February 24, 2020. They found that if you have a comorbidities like coronary artery disease or strokes, cerebrovascular and combined together, 10% risk of mortality irrespective of age. If you are more than 80, if somebody is more than 80, the patient, 15% risk of death. With cardiovascular disease, 10%. With diabetes, 7%. But here when you are talking of CVD and diabetes, it is irrespective of age. That means the diabetic population getting infected. First of all, diabetics have poor immunity, and similarly the cardiovascular patient also have got a higher mortality. This is much more than chronic respiratory disease. This is a little paradox. The COPD, chronic obstructive lung disease, this virus is affecting causing pneumonia. It's a lung, basically primarily affecting the lungs. Despite that, the patient who had the associated chronic respiratory disease had a much lesser chances of dying as compared to cardiovascular disease. Hypertension and cancer patients do not have that much, but still little high. So this was an important slide to tell you, and I think I have to finish my presentation to take a few sessions on the topic of what was topic of statins or COVID. I can talk about this for. So I think Mr. Negi, if you're online, or Mr. Govind, or anybody from the team of Lupin or from the organizers, I'm ready to take a few questions, or if that is fine, we can finalize this. I can continue talking for another half an hour, but I think the time allotted was 4 to 5 p.m. So Mr. Negi, are you hearing me or anybody else? Hello? 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 Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
okay, so I think the presentation was clear and everything was okay.
Yes, sir, everything is okay.
So may I know whom I'm talking to? Is it Mr. Govind? Hello? Hello? Any questions from any of the audience? Can we have some discussion?
Sir?
Yes?
Yes, sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Any questions?
Sir, the question you can see from the chat.
Okay, from the chat, let me see. So there is a question from Dr. Raj Kapoor. Doctor, in diabetic patients, what precautions should be taken in high dose statins? You see, such high dose statins, diabetes, you have to, for any statin, a general consensus is that you have to keep watching on the liver enzymes. That's all. So, as a diabetic per se, there is no special reason for not to give it. If your liver enzymes are going up, SGOT and SGPT are galloping high, then of course you have to reduce down the dosage to a low dosage or hold it for a few days and then restart. So this is one question I have answered. What are changes in statin prescription rates and cholesterol treatment guidelines over time? Dr. S.K. Agarwal, what are the changes in the statin prescription rates and cholesterol treatment guidelines? You see, there have been many guidelines coming up recently. Earlier when the simvastatin came, and then of course torvastatin, then there was pravastatin, then there was rosuvastatin, then there is so many guidelines are there. But no major change except that you have been always talking about the LDL-C goals. So there is one even less than 70 mg/%. But as of now, I would say that as per the guidelines from the European Society, that means the LDL-C of 70 is good enough. And once you achieve 70, it's better. But there have been some guidelines coming up from India as well that you can go down further. So this is one statin prescription and cholesterol treatment guidelines over time is that. But I am told that high intensity statins, that means minimum of 40 mg of torvastatin, especially in post-PCI patients or acute coronary syndrome patient, is better and reduces the major adverse cardiovascular events more as compared to the moderate intensity, irrespective of the LDL-C levels. And one more question was there, that was related to, I think, mostly I have thanked for the detailed explanation. Dr. Satish Kumar Jukala, Sudhir Sethi, which statin is preferred in CKD patients? I think there was a trial which I am forgetting. I cannot answer this as of now. Whether I feel that atorvastatin, rosuvastatin both can be given in CKD patients, but there are few head-on trial versus rosuvastatin. So there was a trial which has shown that for primary prevention, rosuvastatin is better. Some trial have shown, and for the secondary prevention, atorvastatin is better. Because I was speaking last year on this issue. So I would be more happy, and the Nasir Ahmed, Sunil Dahiya, Dr. Dinesh Gupta, Sanjeev Kumar Tamta, Dr. Manjeet Singh, Sudhir Sethi, they have all requested just to say hello to me, and that's all. I think this is what's going on. So high intensity statins, the topic, and the COVID has been taken up. I would request finally that all the healthcare workers should at least take hydroxychloroquine with the ECG, keeping the ECG in mind. Then just a minute. Hello? Nidhi, batao. आपने प्रेजेंटेशन देख लिया ना हमारा? इसको we can close the session now. Okay, so I think if there are no further questions, I was talking to Mr. Negi. They said you can close the section, and as of now, I would just requesting again that take care of yourself, your family members. प्रधानमंत्री के साथ जो उन्होंने दिए हैं कि सबका साथ और 7 चीजें बताई हैं, जिसमें कि हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स को रिस्पेक्ट दीजिए, पुलिस वर्कर्स को रिस्पेक्ट दीजिए, दिस फॉर पब्लिक. And also he has said the social distancing, take care of your elders, and physical and social distancing kariye, and take care of your people who are working with you. This is very important, sir. The people who are working, that means they depend upon the daily wages. So that means your employee, you have to take care of them. They are actually poor people and we are affordable people. And this is what our Prime Minister said, सबका साथ में 7 बातें जो बताई थी last episode में उन्होंने. और this is finalized. I think we are going to see very soon Corona going off, but my personal perception is that lockdown maybe, I was reading in the newspaper in the morning that the France has the more those countries which have had longer days of lockdown, they have fared well. One of our friends from France told in the morning, this is very important, I want to share with you, we have not read in the newspaper, that the river Seine in France, and they caught virus in the river Seine, so they have stopped cleaning because there is this protocol in the whole of the Paris and other French cities that they wash the roads every day in the morning from 4 a.m. till 6 a.m. So this practice of cleaning the roads have stopped because they have detected some virus. I don't know whether how far it is correct, but the French media and the French friend was telling me today only that they have stopped cleaning the Paris roads just because they have fear and they found the virus in the river Seine. So this is something very intriguing and something which I cannot understand. That we all know this airborne virus. How they find the virus in the river Seine, and they have stopped cleaning the roads of Paris. They are taking very good precautions, and they feel this is one thing very important for Indian to know, that they are all the roads of Paris and France. They clean every morning from 4 a.m. with water, and therefore, and this something which is very good. And they have stopped doing this because of fear of virus. The whole country, the America is trying to open the lockdown faster. They want to looking in the economy part. Our Prime Minister will, I think, continue to lock down with some changes. I know the lockdown is not easy. We are all, especially for the people who are working poor economic. So, but we have to take care. The life is more important than money, and health is wealth. And this old saying हमारे भारत में सिखाया गया है कि अगर health है तो सब कुछ है, स्वास्थ्य है. And when you have no life, how will you? So I was looking at the interview recently with Donald Trump, the journalist. He was saying that if you don't have money, how will you live? This was another way of thinking. Somebody said that life is more important. Then he said, if you don't have money, how will you live? So that means for them, economy is equally important. For our Prime Minister, economy is secondary. We have to take care of lives first. So when he said, Mr. Donald Trump, that if you don't have money, how will you live? So they said they want to finish off the lockdown as soon as possible, despite having so many deaths every day. So this is something very. One last thing: Stockholm, the place where the Nobel Prize is given. Sweden is only partially locked down. This is the only country where they are believing that lockdown complete is not important. This is very intriguing. The article came up. Why this is there? Their thought process is, if you do complete lockdown, there will be no herd immunity. Herd means H-E-R-D. Herd, not H-E-A-R-D. H-E-R-D, herd. Herd immunity. For any disease to go off, in the long run, you have to have herd immunity. You know the viral diseases. We all have herd immunity. To have the herd immunity, you have to be exposed. And if you have full lockdown, then you will not be completely exposed. And therefore, you will not have herd immunity. You will depend only on vaccine, which is taken for a long time. So Stockholm, people are still in the restaurants are open. That was the day before yesterday figure. And then the health minister came up online, no, we are also locked down. To some of the journalists were taking the picture that people are moving out and schools are partially open. So this is Stockholm. They have different strategy than their own friends of Europe. So Stockholm is a very nice city of Sweden where the Nobel Prize is given. So I have seen that place very nice. And a lot of doctors must have visited that place, a very touristic place. So this is last point. Finally, I finished my talk, high intensity statins for post-PCI patients. As far as this study is concerned, take care of the liver enzymes, number one. Secondly, primary prevention, rosuvastatin is shown to be better than atorvastatin, or secondary prevention, atorvastatin, that was different. I did not present. COVID-19 is going to go off, of course, but second wave is likely. Whether it is a bio war, or it was a spontaneous coming out from the lab, or it was a natural, we don't know. Lot of controversies are going. The whole world is against China, and we are cursing that why this should happen. The first time, the Spanish flu killed more than 4 to 6 crore population. Very important, we don't know. 1902, very old, earliest part of the century. The last century, the Spanish flu killed 4 crore to 6 crore population, the whole world. We don't want to become Spanish flu, of course. Even our Rashtrapita Mahatma Gandhi was infected at that time, but he recovered quickly. So he was also quarantined. So this is the second important pandemic after Spanish flu, where we have so many lakhs people killed, dying, innocent people. This war is worse than our chairman, Professor Dr. P.C. Reddy was talking. This is the World War III. He spoke on the webinar. I say, but there is difference between the World War II and III. In World War I and II, less innocent people or less civilians were dying. Of course, there was a lot of civilians who died also. But when there is a war, when there is a military war, they only target the military targets. When there is if there is a biological war, the innocent people are dying for no reason. But of course, I don't want to go to controversy. It is a natural disease for all practical purposes, and it has come. We have to find vaccines soon. The other treatment, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, antiparasite drugs, the plasma therapy, this is going to take over. Social distancing, hand hygiene, sanitizations, mask, rumal, gamcha, lockdown, all this is going to help people. It's only for the saving the lives, and therefore the patient, we have to take care of healthcare workers, doctors have to take care. I have been told from my family that I should not go to hospital, but there are few patients coming up. We take full precautions. We sanitize hands every hour or every 10 minutes. Whenever we find sanitizer, it becomes a habit. Sanitize, clean. This has become a sort of a phobia to many people. A lot of patients are not able to video consultation started. Apollo has a special app to give a video consultation. People take video. Lot of patients are dying over globally. European Society of Cardiology, they gave a video that is it the coronary artery disease patients' death have been reduced, or is it because the patients are not coming up to the hospital? So we don't know. The number of hospitalization of CAD has gone down drastically all over the world. People do not have the courage to go to the hospital. A lot of my patients, they feel that Apollo is fully infected. It's not true. We have a separate ward. We have a separate isolation ICU. We have a separate isolation ward. We are taking full precaution. That means the other people who are coming, the patients who are non-cardiac. But of course, we have made a strategy. It's very important for the other doctors to know. There is a special strategy. All patients, today only, the DMS gave a guideline. All the patients before non-cardiac, non-COVID patients, before admission, they have to have a COVID negative test. Earlier it was like this, that only surgical patients, that means going for surgery, even a routine surgery or non-cardiac surgery or any surgery, they have to have COVID-19 negative. Now today the guidelines come, before admitting, please do the COVID-19 test. But this is very unfortunate because there are sometimes patients who are requiring urgent treatment. And COVID-19 test, which is the PCR test, takes for 24 hours to 36 hours for the results to come. So, but we have to take care of the hospital staff as well. So we have to do like this. Thank you very much for watching this. And I think we can end the session now. It has been long talk and long evening, so very. I read out few. Pushpender writing very appreciative information with COVID-19. Satish Kumar Julka, Dr. S.K. Agarwal with the interactive, Dr. Raj Kapoor, Sudhir Sethi, Mr. Dr. Mukesh Madan, Sushil Kumar Dubey, just hello to them. Dr. S.K. Malhotra, Dr. Raj Kapoor, Dr. Asif Ahmed Khan, Asif Ahmed Makhdoon, Sunil Dahiya, Dr. Dinesh Gupta, Dr. Mansoor Ahmed from Pakistan, Sanjeev Kumar Tamta, Dr.